We're rolling.
Welcome to the House Dudes podcast, where we invite you to follow us on our journey towards financial freedom using the power of real estate. I'm Jack Haas.
And I'm Josh Koth. Here at House Dudes, we believe in a couple key principles. Number one, the best way to retain information is by teaching it to others. And number two, a rising tide lifts all boats. We're not competitors, we're a community. So let's get into some real estate investing.
This episode is brought to you by Yellow Letter HQ. Head over to bit.ly/yellowletterhd for fast, affordable, direct-to-seller marketing. Tired of real estate marketing campaigns that don't get results? Yellow Letter HQ is one of the most competitive direct mail campaigns that can save your budget and your sanity. They deliver a fast campaign turnaround that gets your phone ringing. Check out their services at bit.ly/yellowletterhd. This week, we jump into part 2 of my conversation with Gary Boomershine regarding lead generation for real estate investors. If you want to connect with Gary, make sure you jump over to his website at realestateinvestor.com. That's realestateinvestor.com. One other thing that you have your people ask that I've found pays off almost every time is, have you considered listing it with a realtor? As if I've just run into a lot of other investors who almost keep that under a cloak or something as if that's a secret.
Right.
But more times than not, you'll get far more information by simply asking that question.
Yeah.
Regarding their motivation.
Yeah. We have this conversation, Jack, and this is, I'm in 10 masterminds, some of the top masterminds in the country with really, really solid people that are doing massive direct mail. Scott Oots, I think Scott Oots does on average 55,000 pieces of direct mail a week. So we're talking high volume guys. And I'll tell you a couple things. One is that there's no money to be made in this business if you're not talking to sellers. And the biggest fear that new investors have, probably some of the people that might be following and listening to us right now, the biggest fear is the fear of rejection, of getting on the phone and getting yelled at by a seller. And so they'll go back to trying to find, the new little rainbow unicorn mailing list or the next marketing thing, the shiny object syndrome, right? The reality is, you just have to talk to the seller, and it has to be done. You can use all the systems and all these things that get you in front of the seller, but you still have to talk to the seller. And the reality is, it's just a human conversation. Once you start having some at-bats interacting with the seller, it is people buy and people sell to people that they like, trust, and respect, and being honest. And, I was coaching Tyler in Dallas, and super, super amazing guy. And, he was nervous originally talking to sellers. So I just said, just tell him who you are. The fact he actually was a pilot when he was like 14 years old. He had a pilot's license before he actually was driving a car. And I said, tell the sellers that. Tell them who you are. When I come in, I actually show picture. Here's my wife and my kids. And we've been doing this full time. We took our little nest egg together, our little family investment, and we buy properties, a few this month. And, if there's an opportunity for, if this is a good situation for you and we can make a modest profit, I'd love to be an opportunity for you. And I love I'll say, have you thought about listing it with an agent? Here's the thing. There's so many benefits to what we offer as investors. I know you know that, Jack, but for everybody else, there's so many things. A lot of people don't want the hassle of waiting and having people holding open houses and having people trample through their stuff or having to do the repairs. And so, I buy properties with bad tenants. I know you probably do too. I love buying problems. I had 3 older sisters who had an estranged son who had been living in this property in Oakland, California for 8 years, rent-free. no electricity. They turned the electricity off. He was still living. They couldn't get him out. And I said to the three sisters, how would you like it if I bought the property and I'll take him as a renter? He doesn't even have to pay rent. I'll take care of him. And they were so happy. They were in their late 70s, and they said they were super, super happy. And so we buy, as long as we can find the problem, right, of what the seller's problem, and we can come up with a solution. It's, we exchange, a discount on our property for problems all the time, right?
Yeah. No, it's funny that I almost have that exact same story. We had a family who just they didn't have it in their heart to evict them, so they sold us the property, and then we went through the eviction process instead.
Yeah.
We ended up being the bad guy for it, so they didn't have to be.
Yeah. Yeah. That's definitely not the norm. And, if you're a real estate investor, let's say you're somebody that's actually listening to this right now, you can buy a property on the MLS that's listed with a realtor. If you're looking, that's a lot of people do that. They call that online. We're looking for online properties. I love going after off market. That's that's on market deals, right? Typically MLS, foreclosure auctions, or buying at the HUD. It's super competitive. Mm-hmm. I like going off market, and the challenge with off market is that you have to do the marketing that generates the lead. The follow up is the key, and having a phone team. Somebody needs to do the phone work, and I always tell people, hey, it really, the work has to get done. It just doesn't have to get done by you. And you want to look at the marketing and that work and the cost of that as return on investment. You're putting $1 in and you're getting $4, $5, $10 out. And so a lot of novices, they look at it as an expense, and they're like, oh, I'm going to do it myself. And that's a recipe for disaster. So it's I always say, if you're in this business as a real estate investor, it's going to do multiple transactions a year or a month. You want to think of it as a business, and every business needs a CEO. That's what we are, right? A CEO, and probably the money-making activities, the $1,000 to $10,000 an hour work, is talking and closing sellers. And if you're doing $10 an hour work as a CEO, you're going to have a $10 bank account. So you want the marketing, the follow-up should be automated, done by somebody else. The phone dialing should be done by somebody else. Those are $10 an hour or less activities, and it shouldn't be us.
Right. I'm sure you've done a comparison too, because there's a lot of CRMs out there now that do the stealth voicemail, for example. So let's say in fact my CRM does that, where somebody calls in, and if I don't call them back myself, the CRM kind of sends them a stealth voicemail, so at least they're getting some sort of follow up. Yeah, but I just know that's not as effective.
Yeah, it's interesting. So realestateinvestor.com, we recently actually merged and acquired two software companies, specifically because we were using a system called Podio. A lot of people, pretty popular. I call it polio because it has all kinds of problems. Yes, it's a very inexpensive solution, but in reality, and I won't go into it.
No, I experienced it. It's a big time suck.
Yeah. So let me give you an example. We have realestateinvestor.com. We have two CRMs. We have a light version. We call it Touch. So you can go out to realestateinvestor.com. This is just one version. There's other CRMs, but I'll tell everybody what was really important. But Touch is, it's less than $100 a month, and it automates all the follow up. The second version of it is called Grow, and that's a couple $100 a month, and that does all the management and follow up and contract generation, so it can automatically send an electronic agreement for signature to the seller, all filled out. Post properties, for buyers. So if you got a deal under contract and you want to post it to your buyers list with its own website. So that's our grow version. And then managed is kind of the premium service. And that's where our team will actually manage all the direct mail for our members consistently, and a phone team and all the follow-up. So it's like it's really the staff, because you could have the systems, but somebody still has to run the systems.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It could be you, or you could hire somebody. And a lot of people say, we just want you guys as experts. But here's the deal with follow-up, Jack. It needs to have, just sending one follow-up voicemail is not enough, not today in this market. So a lead comes in, number one, it needs to actually go out multiple channels. So text, ringless voicemail, email, follow-up letter, and over to an auto dialer to be called. And that needs to be what we call no seller left behind, which means that drip and sequences needs to go on for years. Mm-hmm. Because the reality is 90% come after that 6 interaction. And so you need multiple channels. A lead comes in. I'll give everybody, I don't want to get way down statistics, because I know that I can do that as the nutty professor, but a proven fact is that if you don't interact with the seller within 15 minutes of that lead coming in, your chances of conversion of that lead into a deal goes down by 400%. So you have to interact with the seller within 15 minutes. So we actually, a lead will come in, we will text message them with and the words need to be, they cannot look like it was, it can't look like it was a machine. It has to look personal. It has to be customized. It has to be delayed. So if a message comes in and within 3 seconds, a text message goes out, the seller knows that was automatic. They know that was system generated. They won't respond to it. So we have to have a delay in it. Most of the CRMs out there, they haven't built it to have a delay. Mm-hmm. Why? Because they were built by technical people, not real estate people. It needs to go to a phone team with the right script so that they get back on the phone. And then the type of lead that comes in, the type of lead of where it came in from, needs to have a different sequence. So if a seller comes in and says they're not interested, you're not going to want to text them immediately, right? You're going to want it to be delayed for 3 to 4 months. And then slowly the follow-up starts. If somebody comes in and it was a hang-up, you want to be quick, but you want the message to be very specific to a hang-up. Hey, we missed a call from you. What was the address of the property you wanted to sell? And then it needs to have, your name or somebody's name and a local phone number on there. Typically, it also needs to be the phone number needs to be the same number that they called in off of. Most CRMs don't do that. So that's why we built our own. A lot of CRMs, you also have to have your own call system like CallRail or Freedom Voice, and you got to set up all these different Sly Broadcast, and we wanted it all in one package.
Right.
And then the other thing, these CRMs, they'll support the follow-up, but you have to write all the scripts. And so I've yet to find anybody that uses another CRM that has written a script. Why? Because most of us are real estate guys. We're not technical guys. Right. And so what we did is we actually, in our system for realestateinvestor.com, we actually wrote all the scripts. We came together and said, what are the perfect words? And what's the order? What's the sequence? Does it need to go out every day? Does it need to go out every 3 days? What's the best time of the day to actually interact and send the response back? And that's all pre-built.
So, boy, I could just go on and on and on here. So, with what you were just saying there, when they're doing a marketing list, you basically skip trace everybody, that whole list, basically loaded into your CRM, so you have that contact information preloaded, if you will, so that when they do call in, you already know who they are and you can have that personalization.
Yeah, it's a really great question. The answer is no. So if you're sending out direct mail, it is not it's cost prohibitive to try to actually skip trace the phone number. Why? To skip trace the phone number correctly is not a half a penny. It's usually to get the right data. Like we have skip tracing available in our service. It is it's about the most cost effective that you can get. We've negotiated a monster deal. It's from a company where IDI
Sure.
actually
Yeah.
goes to, and I know you're familiar with them. So yeah, you do not need to do that. Plus, if you're sending out 1,000 postcards, you're only going to get a response off of a certain percentage. So to buy the whole phone list for the small percentage, the 1 to 2 to 3% that are going to come back off of the direct mail, is not cost. It's not effective. Now, if you're going to do it right and you buy the mailing list and then you data stack it to get the vacants that you'll want to pull, and those would be good for text messaging, right? So direct mail, you can do a larger group, and then you might take a percentage of that and skip trace those for doing text message broadcasting and ringless voicemail or cold calling. So the list can actually be reused, but actually, it really depends on what the purpose is, if that makes sense.
Yep. No.
Now, I'll give you another little thing that has been incredibly effective off of all the direct mail. The return postcards that we get, about 4 to 5% is the national average of postcards that will come back in the mail returned. And what we have found is there's a percentage of the ones that are returned that will say vacant. They'll say deceased, undeliverable. Those are absolute gold mine to skip trace. So you send out 1,000 postcards, you get 40 or 50 back. Of the 40 to 50 that you get back from the 1,000 mailed, you're probably going to have 15 that those should be skip traced and given to somebody to be called. Those are gold. That's the reason and the reason they're gold is the competitors are not doing this. Right. The harder it is to locate a seller, and you have less competition, the better the results.
Sure. So do you have, now I'm going to show some interest in your CRM here now. Do you have a way for, if somebody was entrenched in Podio or something else right now, is there an easy way to migrate to your solution?
Yeah, we actually have a migration path where our team, as part of the process, will migrate people from Podio over to our system. We do that. In fact, we had all of our former clients. We built Podio. We were the largest client, by the way. Our company was the largest client of Podio. In fact, when there were performance problems that you probably experienced, they were coming from us. We pretty much broke the system, and that's one of the reasons why we decided to move away from Podio. But yes, there's a migration path of how we can take the leads and the deals and all that data and migrate it over into our system. There are other things with Podio. Just the user experience is terrible, right? It's just like one long list. It's very hard to train a staff to use it. So there were other limitations. So when you log into our system, we have all the list data loaded in ours as well. So when a lead comes in, right, from a postcard or maybe a Carrot website, or maybe whatever the marketing is, a lead comes in, the very first thing we do is we will match up and find, hey, do we know the list that it came from? That's absolutely gold. So most of the Podio systems and other CRMs do not do that. The second thing that we do is we socially profile to see if there's a Facebook, if that person has an email address, a Facebook, a LinkedIn, a Twitter, and we're able to pull that data automatically, instantaneously back, because that gives us the capability of interacting and possibly, reaching out to them with other channels. And then the follow-up automatically kicks off. Depending upon the type of lead, the follow-up sequence And then if they're using our phone team, our Sales Ninja phone team, then they'll be called as well forever to turn it into a qualified appointment.
So following them up on those social media links, have you gotten or seen any pushback from people? I mean, there's been some issues, regarding people being concerned with their privacy and this and that. Like, have you found anybody being creeped out by being reached out to them through?
No, where we've seen the issues is when you're actually broadcasting. There are, like if you're broadcasting to a cold list, that's typically where the issues are. If somebody comes in as an inbound lead, we haven't seen that. In fact, an incredible thing, and I'd recommend this to anybody that's buying properties right now, and you're already doing this, is every deal that you close with a seller, get a short testimonial, a quick 2 to 3 minute video or shorter, right off of your cell phone with the seller. And we're having our clients put those video links right back into the follow-up. So as the lead comes in, it's something to put back out to the seller. Hey, we just closed. Thought this might be relevant. We just closed another property. And if you know somebody, if you're thinking of selling or somebody, we'd love to talk to you or a referral. And then you put the link of the video testimonial. We don't have a lot of people. I know the people that are doing this are having great success, but retargeting. So being able to do Facebook retargeting ads, somebody comes in as an existing lead with an email and being able to retarget them on Facebook and some other places has been super fruitful.
So, well, I warned you that I was hoping, try to keep it to 20, 30 minutes, but look, we're closing in on an hour already. So if people didn't pull out a lot of great nuggets and information out of this episode, I don't know what to say. I mean, between your 3 Ps, you gave us protect, pivot, and what was the third one?
And profit. Yeah, and especially in this market right now, that's we actually created a public Facebook group it's on Facebook called Real Estate Investor Beacon. It was just our give as a company back to our community in the real estate niche of what's working and what are we all doing right now in this market, where I've been interviewing people, big hitters of what people are doing right now, how are they adjusting. And that's a very consistent message for us, which is protect, right? A lot of us are tightening up. We're getting a lot sharper in terms of our marketing spend right now. This is not a time to sit idle, watching the TV. Most of us are doubling up on marketing. A lot of us are taking the existing leads and going back to them. So sellers that were not motivated, we're seeing a lot of them that are motivated right now. So the old leads that maybe the seller said I'm not interested are turning into being great deals right now. But it's protect, and then it's pivot, going into the new market, and then profit. And
Sure.
So a lot of us are doing that. A lot of us are gearing up for opportunities to buy creatively. So that's historically we've been buying with all cash. So a lot of us are going into, there'll be incredible opportunities buying creatively, which I won't go into a lot of detail, and also raising money because there's going to be deal opportunities coming our way within the foreseeable future.
Sure. No money without talking to the sellers. And in fact, you mentioned when people sometimes are afraid to make those phone calls. I don't know, for some reason, it always helps me to remember that you can't say the wrong thing to the right person. I mean, it's just, so make sure you're doing that follow-up is key. And this is really an interesting statistic you threw out, that 90% of your leads are going to come from your 6th or more follow-up.
Yeah. Gosh, Jack, especially for everybody, this is the key. It is time tested. This is not just something new, and it's not just real estate. This is a proven fact on doing direct response marketing, which is direct mail or any of these sources. So 3%, 3% of the profits come from the initial call. So if people are wondering why they're not, imagine 97, you take whatever you've made, that's only 3% of the potential off of your existing lead pool. The money is all in the follow-up and including the phone follow-up. It is extremely profitable. 90% of the deals and the profits come after the 6 interaction, and less than 10% of anybody in this business actually follow up more than twice. So all the profit is after number 6 follow-up. And the other piece is repetitive marketing. It has to be consistent. So people, if they're going to do it, don't just do it for a week or 2 or a month. You want to be committed to it. Marketing is a process. I'll tell you a couple other things. Just, it's time tested on average off of direct mail. And by the way, all these lead sources, direct mail, text messaging, any direct response, it's an average of 45 leads produce a deal. All right. Some lists will be as low as 20, but on average, over the long haul, 45 leads produce a deal. 45 will be about 15, 1/3 of the 45, 15 will be what we call good leads. The rest of them are not ready. About half of those we'll typically make offers to close 1. And that's a national average. So people will get 10 leads and they'll say, why didn't I make any money? This direct mail doesn't work in my market. It's too competitive. No, it's a numbers game. And then we're continuously working all of the old leads forever.
Because your key there was that you just said they weren't ready.
They weren't ready.
You just got to hit them when they're right.
That's right. Yeah. The mindset of anybody doing this should be that all leads suck until you talk to the seller, right? They don't just come in motivated. What we're looking for is a reasonable seller, and they get more and more motivated. Not all sellers are ready yet, and so you have to interact with them. And it's the psychology, just thinking, just like buying a car. People that will go to the dealership a week or 2 weeks. So it's a process, and a lot of people are they're looking for the fairy tale motivated seller. It doesn't exist. There's no perfect list. There's no perfect letter. There's no perfect website. It's a process, and the people that are doing it right are making tons of money off of it. Scott Oots had one of his best months. He's doubling up. He's actually Real Estate Investor Beacon. We just interviewed him.
Sure.
So that would be a good one for people to listen to. He's a high 7-figure guy in one of the most competitive markets in the country.
So, well, and then you threw out one last staggering statistic that you need to contact or reach back out to these people within 15 minutes, or their interest drops 400%. That is, if that doesn't get you back on the phones, I don't know what does.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. What were you going to say? At the very least, what?
Oh, at the very least, it's the text message. A text message, or it also typically 4 to 5 p.m. 4 to 5 p.m. is the best time, Wednesdays and Thursdays, to call back, is what we have found. The problem is most of us are busy, right? So that's another reason why you want to have a system to automate the follow-up, and you want a phone team that's built in to do it for us.
So, well, I'm going to end with one last question. Was there a question you wished I would have asked you here tonight?
Is this a good time to be in the real estate investor niche? Would be probably the number one question. And this is the type of market that we're going into right now that real estate investors dream of. And so this is an incredible market that we're about ready to go into. With a situation like this, we want to buy low and sell high. The market, the money, the primary amount of money was made at the beginning of the cycle, 2008 to 2012. right? Then we get into the back end, which is a euphoric stage where everybody's talking real estate. So we're now going back into the reset of the market. And I would say people that are sitting on the sidelines, we're going to see a lot of people exit. And this is the time to prepare and do the 3 Ps and be ready to pivot and profit.
Well, I can't thank you enough, Gary, for being on the show. This was, I really appreciate you sticking it out and giving us so much time. If people were interested in following up with you or finding your podcast, I don't think you could have an easier domain name to remember. realestateinvestor.com. I mean, man, what a great domain name. Where else would they find you?
Yeah, Facebook, real estate, and you can type in Facebook groups, Real Estate Investor Beacon. That's something we set up specifically as our give back. That's got great content. We have a huddle. We have a podcast that's Real Estate Investor Huddle, and got some great interviews there. And then, of course, you can always check us out. Our team loves to talk. You won't find a salesy approach. It's very much, I've got an organization with about 110 people working for us. And, we love helping other investors, other like-minded investors. And if we can help, we've got a lot of articles, ton of articles of, helpful tips. If you're trying to do stuff on your own, we've got a lot of free resources out there. So take advantage of all that. And if we can ever help you out, let us know.
Well, I again, really appreciate your time. It was great chatting with you, and I hope we can do it again sometime.
Yeah, awesome, Jack, and everybody. Have a great one.
We've put a lot of effort into providing useful content, and if you found value in the show and have any interest in supporting us with a small donation, head over to patreon.com/housedudes.
And if you have any thoughts or questions, shoot us an email at info@housedudes.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter @housedudes. And if you like what you're hearing, head over to iTunes, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. It really helps other investors out there find the show.
And remember, massive positive impact requires
massive positive action. We'll see you next time. This episode is brought to you by housedudes.com. Do you have time to actively manage flipping and rentals yourself? If so, go for it. If you live in a market that won't cash flow or don't have the time to do all the work, are you just out of luck? If there was a way to participate more passively, would that appeal to you? I'm sure you have questions about how the process works and what to do next. If that's the case, fill out the form on housedudes.com/investors, and we'll reach out to see if you are a good fit for our business. This is first come, first serve, and we will have to stop taking applications when our goals are met. See you at housedudes.com/investors.
I don't like to tell a man what to do with his money, but if you ain't investing in property, then you're dumber than a dummy.
I'm not dumb. I'm smart.
Well, buy property. That's my advice.